Welcome to the Notes to My Legal Self AI Insights, where law and AI collide. Get ready to level up your legal game with us. We've got career advice, cutting edge developments, mind blowing legal tech, and more. Know someone making waves in the legal AI world? Nominate them, or even nominate yourself. We love courageous souls. And don't forget, we want to hear from you too. Ask questions, drop comments. Let's build a community of legal superheroes. But here's the deal. We're all about to have a blast. AI may be serious, but we're here to make it fun. So buckle up, get ready to power up, and let's embark on this exciting journey together. Now, let's introduce your fearless host, Olga Mack. Get ready to dive into the awesomeness of Notes to My Legal Self AI Insights. Let's go.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Notes to My Legal Self. I'm really excited to have this conversation. It is about something I know very little about. It's intersection of AI and sustainability, and someone I recently met and have been following on LinkedIn and very much admire her career, her as a person, and the content that she shares with the world. So without further ado, Pamela, welcome to Notes to My Legal Self. Really, really excited to have this conversation. For folks who haven't met you, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Olga. Thank you for having me on your show today. I'm delighted to be here. I'm Pamela Isom, founder and CEO of Izabayte Consulting. It's an AI and cybersecurity firm specializing in safe digital transformation, AI governance, and risk management. I,
Okay,
I
go
am
ahead.
also host of the podcast AI or Not.
All right. I love the safe digital transformation and risk and all of that. So that sounds amazing. What was the scenic route? How did you get to be where you are, to the practice you have, to the podcast you have? And what was the scenic route so folks can be situated in your career and your knowledge and your expertise?
I started my career as a computer programmer and a software engineer. I learned Ops 5, which is expert systems. It's an AI system, but it's really expert systems. I learned that probably in the late 1980s, early 1990s. And then I navigated in the private sector through several jobs, went from software engineer to architect in application architect. And then I moved into enterprise architecture and then principal consultant. And then I joined the federal government. I joined the federal government as a senior executive over application engineering and development, deputy CIO, and over artificial intelligence at the US Department of Energy. So that's my career. Now I'm back in the private sector as CEO and founder.
I love it. Wow, you've done a few things. It is fair to say that you have done few things. So the focus of our conversation is on that intersection of sustainability and AI. And it's not really a topic that many people discuss. So I'm going to start with very basics because I'm actually pretty new to this. Help me understand how AI can be helpful in this really massive and important thing called sustainability.
I would think that if you're trying to understand sustainability, first of all, you may want to check out the UN, the 17 UN development goals, sustainability development goals. So those are good, right? So examples are no poverty, zero hunger, good health, quality education, clean water and sanitation. So it has some good climate action is in there, sustainable cities and communities. So all of those, I'm not going to list all 17, but those are you would want to start with sustainability goals. So every organization should have sustainability goals. And then AI sustainability then is an overlay that says, are we using AI to meet our sustainability goals or can we? And then, second of all, is AI sustainable in itself so that it's not introducing some of the very challenges that are opposed to the sustainability goals? That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, okay. So For folks who haven't seen the UN big chart with 17 things, I'll invite you to Google and you'll find it first thing. It's actually really helpful. There are quite a few things there, and it breaks it down. And there's a whole website that helps you navigate that. And you and your organization can make many informed decisions. I also love how you broke it down, sort of how can it help further our goals, which, by definition, requires you to know what your goals are. And
Yep.
then the second piece of sort of understanding, what is the impact of all of this? What is our footprint? Are we making things worse? And I want to kind of bifurcate this conversation and let's talk about examples of how AI, what are sort of examples of AI actually helping, if you have certain defined goals for your organization, they hopefully are written down and you are accounting to yourself, stakeholders, shareholders, employees, customers, however you choose to do that. What are the examples of AI helping you to get there?
So I see AI playing an instrumental role in helping to achieve sustainability goals like real-time environmental monitoring, climate prediction modeling, the weather forecasting, which we have that today, but AI helps to make your weather forecasting more reliable, real-time analytics. There was a situation that happened just this week where a young life was saved because of drone technology, thermal image drones, and those usually integrate AI. That's because you're trying to get to information quickly. You've got camera data that is in the that the vehicles pick up, so the drones pick up or unmanned aerial vehicles pick up the camera data, but that data has to be processed super quick and inference is drawn. So what happened was we had a young person who was located from a as a part of a search and rescue operations mission. She was missing. They found her because of that thermal imaging drone technology that I'm sure integrates AI. They found her and was able to get her home safely, and they found her in the woods. So that's an example of how we can use AI to address some of the sustainability issues today. And search and rescue is a environmental and safety sustainability issue.
I love that. So a very important example, saving lives, whether or not you have sustainability goals is kind of a thing to do that, we care about that very deeply. And we want to make sure that, everyone is safe. In implementing AI for, say, specifically sustainability goals, have you seen sort of any resistance? Is it sort of, and if so, is it sort of rooted in sort of deep fears related to AI? Is it because folks may not be technically savvy, or is there anything else? What is a list of buts people give you when you start connecting the dots with sustainability and AI?
So if we think about sustainability today and AI and sustainability, a practical example and some of the resistance that I get is why should I be concerned with this? Why should I even care? So, and I say to people, a good example for using AI for sustainability is to clean up your data. So, to clean up the data in your environment, in your systems, in your digital thread, right? So use it to help with that because there's no way you can do it on your own. It's not possible because everybody has too much data. So the rationale that I use is think about when you and you don't do this, but think about if you were to litter. So at first you may think, oh yeah, it's just a cup. But after a while, it starts to accumulate and it causes harm. Think about the fact that when we are picking up behind ourselves. So it's much easier to pick up as we go than to wait until it piles up and then it's a mess, right? So that's why sustainability is so important. Take care of things as we go, reduce and minimize that carbon footprint, and reduce waste, right? So those are some examples. And AI helps with keeping things more accurate, helping us through this process, helping us make inferences that are pretty reliable, and just getting us to where we need to be from a sustainability perspective.
Those are great examples, and thank you for breaking it down. And what sort of reasons people or companies or organizations give for not using AI for this purpose?
Because it's not that they're opposed to AI as well, maybe. Some are concerned about AI because of the reputation that AI has. Machine learning has been around for a while. Generative AI is not always trustworthy. So some have issues with that because they aren't sure that they can trust the outcomes. But in general, is we have to understand that even ethics is a part of sustainability. So producing high quality outcomes and being ethical as far as how we respect and treat our customers' information is a part of sustainability efforts. So, in general, the concern has been because they don't understand the applicability of sustainability and then how AI can help. So, the examples that I shared a moment ago are examples of how, like cleaning up your data, like respecting and privacy preserving, using AI to help with the privacy preserving actions are good examples of applying AI for sustainability.
I love it. So it does require some intent. It requires some preparation, some resource allocation, hiring up, making decision. It's not just sort of a quick thing to do. It requires some work. I loved your example of sort of savings life and safety related. And you started giving a few more examples. I want to dig more into sort of environmental example risks and climate and natural disasters. What else can we do with AI that boards and executives and legal executives and risk executives and board decision makers should be considering, when prioritizing their AI goals?
So let's take, for instance, transmission lines. So transmission lines and grid inspections can be safer and provide protections for our operators if we use AI to conduct the inspections as opposed to sending folks, for instance, up the pole to see if the transmission lines are in good health or below surface to see the health of transmission lines. So those are things that you want to think about is how we can use these tools for those type of purposes. So another example is I used AI maybe a year ago, but it's still happening today to more efficiently navigate some literature to identify renewable energy materials and sources. And the information was in the literature that we didn't have time to navigate and peruse. So we used AI to help us with that. So another example, for instance, is we have lots of we we are suffering as a society from radiation and pollutants in the atmosphere. That's just the way it is. And the ability to detect radiation in buildings can be overshadowed by the fact that sometimes the high rise buildings, or where there's a lot of noise, or where there's high traffic in like in urban areas or dense materials, the noise can out outweigh the signal. And so, what you can do and what we are doing is using AI to detect radiation. AI is good at getting rid of the noise and getting straight to the signal. So, that's an example. And why is that? Because it's data, because it knows how to identify data, categorize, and help present information to you or to leaders to understand how to use it.
Wow, that is so exciting. Thank you for sharing those really fantastic examples. And I love how you sort of circled it around data and how really it gives you, because it's sort of a unit of exchange in this AI conversation. It really gives you a granular ability to to do all kinds of things, including getting rid of noise. I want to talk about a few things. We hear a lot about sort of text to video, text to audio tools for AI, for example. I use quite a lot of them. I wonder if any of those are useful for sustainability goals. And if so, I would love some examples. I love your examples. So I'm going to ask you for many more examples, Pam. Any examples there?
Well, so think about traveling to and from locations, which is, I mean, not everybody can afford or I won't say afford is the right word, but not everybody is privy to electric vehicles. So traveling to and from locations is a better use of our time, but it also lowers carbon emissions. So, and it can reduce the need for the physical meetings and everybody having to be there in person. It's also beneficial for accessibility needs. So text to video, text to audio is great for accessibility needs. I mean, I personally, I don't always like looking at the screen. I don't like looking at the screen 24 hours a day. I just don't. So I like text to audio. I use audio a lot. And just recently, I was speaking with my husband and we were talking about something, and he used his device and he asked his device a question. And the device replied. Then I turned around and asked his device the same question, and it wouldn't respond because it knew his voice. It knew his voice. So the technologies and the capabilities that we have, they are sustainable. They also are, in some ways, keeping us safe. So I think asset reuse, I use it for, I really want to stress the accessibility needs, but there's also personalized learning. So think about how we can use AI to suggest learning materials to match our learning styles. Because, as the example that I use with my husband, for instance, it knows our styles. So it may present materials for us that's kind of tailored on how we operate and how we learn. And also in the school systems, we can use it for that purpose. So those are examples.
Those are great examples. Thank you for sort of tickling my imagination. Let's talk about the second part, the footprint part, because I do want to come back to that. That's a very important conversation. And that's a conversation not just only unique to AI. We've had the same conversation with blockchain and crypto, for example, the sort of how much energy technology uses. Technology runs on energy. And today we have a few sources of that, very finite sources, and they do have impact on the environment and the world around us. So, and that conversation around AI, because it does require a lot of compute, and we haven't solved the compute problem, we are end up in environment related conversation. So, as the sort of beginning of it, can you help to educate folks about kind of, what are we talking about when we talk about the impact of AI on the environment and kind of sustainability goals overall?
So the fact that, like when we were talking about text to video. So one of the issues with video and just AI in general, particularly large language models, is that they are energy consuming. So one of the things that I've done, for instance, is I have created a AI agent, and I made it a point to make the agent be smaller in as far as its responsibilities, so that it would not be as taxing when it comes to energy and data center consumption, for instance, of power and water. I also made it so that it is smaller in scope, yes, but very targeted. So I give it certain materials to search. I don't have it search the entire web because that's a resource hog. So what you want to do with AI is it's expensive. And these models are expensive because it has to traverse so much data to derive inferences and to make recommendations to us, whether it's generative AI or not, right? It has to process, and the compute capacity and the requirements are expensive. So what you want to do is you want to do things like that. So my model is intentionally intended to be more energy efficient and help support some of the sustainability goals. It also is tokens. So you want to be careful with the amount of tokens, which comes about with how long your prompts are. If your prompts are super long, that's a lot of tokens that the model has to process. So sometimes people ask, and my clients ask me this, like, what are some things that I can do to make my models a bit more sustainable from a prompt engineering perspective? And then I talk to them about that because there are things that we can do. And so I'm not sure if you want me to go into that here, but be mindful of some things that we can do to help make our prompts more successful. I mean, more sustainable. And from an LLM perspective, LLMs typically, the way they are designed, large language models, they're not that efficient. So you want to go with the smaller, more tailored models that use fewer tokens and fewer parameters.
Wow. I love how individually we can all make a difference. And I want folks to reflect on that, how we in your interactions with LLM every day, you can make a difference in the prompts you write, the agents you create, all of those things. Um, as much as I love this sort of individual empowerment, I also think of systems we can create. So that's not a choice, but a default option to do that. And as leaders and companies, what can we do? And I don't, obviously folks who build LM models have one choice of tools available to them, and then folks like us who consume this stuff can also do different things as well. So let's talk about the majority here, which is folks who consume. What can you do in your organization? And I definitely want you to go into depth also on the individual person. Like, for example, how do you write that prompt that is much more sustainable? But I'm also very curious about what we as an organization can do, what kind of mechanism and policies and structures we can create to make sure that people by default do the right thing. How can we help everyone to be sustainable without really giving them a choice not to be?
I mean, I would say education and training is important. So you would talk to organizations, folks within the organizations. Always remember the people. This is something that I say to my clients. Always remember the people in the organization are the most important. So do they understand how being sustainable helps them? If they don't understand, they're not going to do it. So take time out to ensure that the people within the organization, the workforce, understands the value to them, not the value to you and your profit, the value to them personally, because that's how you get people to get on board and support the goals. The other thing is look at the data centers that you have. Are you using clean energy sources? So, are a lot of data centers are using nuclear energy as well as renewable energy sources, or in addition to renewable energy sources. And so, those are things that even if the compute intensity is great, if you're using renewable energy sources, that then helps when it comes to the cost of the AI in itself, and it helps to offset some of the costs and offset that environmental issue that comes with the carbon footprint. So, and it's not just energy, it's also water. So you want to think about the design of the data center and the impacts to the data center. Another thought would be to look at distributing the workloads so that the AI workloads, they don't always have to be processed against the GPUs and the TPUs. They could also be processed against some of the newer chips like the LPUs. And not only that, if you don't want to go there, because that's kind of technical, also just look at the peak times like we do for energy in general. So, when are those peak times? And if that's the case, use AI to distribute the workloads so that those that can run in off hours and non-peak hours run at that time. And AI can help us figure that out. Those are things that we can do in addition to looking at some things personally.
I love it. Those are great suggestions. There's a really actionable insights that I think we as leaders can think about and prioritize. And I like how you broke it down into sort of more technical things and less technical things before you have a technical expert. But it suffice it to say, having a technical expert would be super helpful in this adventure. Right? Okay. We are coming to the end, unfortunately. I have about 5 minutes. I have a few more questions. I do want to talk a little bit more about sort of other ethical implications. I mean, this whole energy consumption is definitely no small thing. You just listed 10 things we can do. 8 of them I understand only like halfway maybe. So there's somewhat technical and require a lot of perseverance, I guess, in a plan. So obviously there's sort of enough to begin with even on that side. But are there any other sort of ethical implications when it comes to the intersection of AI and sustainability goals that leaders must be very actively, well, must be aware and very actively problem solving in their daily routines?
I would say I'll go to the example that I used this morning. So this morning, it was on my mind, and so I just asked AI, "Is data scraping I would get?" And the response was, no, it isn't. It isn't sustainable. And it pointed out a few things. It pointed out that there are ethical concerns. There's a lack of user consent and legal risk issues, right? So, one of the things that happens when you're data scraping is that it's not sustainable. And not only that, but part of the reason why it isn't sustainable is for ethical reasons. So, a lot of times you don't ask and get the consumer's consent. So that's what it pointed out. Then there's the environmental impact. So the energy intensiveness that I talked about already. And you can kind of look at the post for the listeners, they can look at the post that I put out there. But there's also that erosion of trust in AI systems. So if it's not trustworthy, that's a social implication, right? So then why would anybody try to do this if there's no if it's, it's totally destroying the trust? So this specific question that I asked was why. I asked the question, is data scraping? So we've had issues with that, right? With a couple of vendors as of late that have done data scraping to get more data to train their LLMs. The problem is that it's a non-sustainable practice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about scraping. I mean, it's a non-sustainable, incredibly common practice. That is how we build ChatGPT. Frankly, that's how we build anything else because at some point we're only beginning to innovate in synthetic data and the quality of it. So at some point those are data-driven technologies. They need input and scraping are really the I'm not gonna say the one and only, but it is a very, very common way to do it. And there are, missing private data sets to do various things. So and we're only beginning to have conversations that are sophisticated enough to address it. Let's talk a little bit more about maybe let's end on an optimistic note because I am a very optimistic person and I think the future is bright and I'm really excited about this technology. Let's talk about sort of innovations, AI innovations that you think are exciting, especially on this intersection of sort of technology, AI, and sustainability. That really sort of, all those things that give ethical concerns, including scraping. But what does give you hope? Like what innovations that you sort of like, we're still trending positive.
So, addressing the climate crisis, I believe that there are more and more innovations that are surfacing. So, things like better weather, predicting weather patterns, these extreme events. I was involved in a program. Today I'm involved with some federated research activity, and which is cool. But the research, an example research that I have been engaged with is modeling the grid to look for vulnerabilities based on simulations using simulated data. And we wanted to identify where we did it based on weather patterns and predicted weather patterns. So we predicted a hurricane, what would the implications be to the grid? We had predicted wildfires and what would the implications be to the grid? So these are the things that I'm excited about because with the climate crisis evolving and continuously evolving, we are getting ahead of predicting the weather patterns and predicting how to make communities and environments more resilient. I am totally excited about that, particularly around hurricanes, which is what we're dealing with right this very moment.
I love that. And hurricanes, especially in certain part of the country, can be incredibly impactful and disastrous. And we've seen it in the recent history and not so recent history. So I'm excited that you're excited. And I'm generally excited. How about that? I guess my final question is about folks like myself who are not technical. I do not have a benefit of an engineering degree. I only have a benefit of being born to two engineers who talked about technology my entire life, and was a great admiration. But there are quite a lot of leaders who do not have benefit of understanding fluency, comfort in technology, and this AI stuff, and frankly, technology generally, this transformative technology trends generally is sort of disorienting and yes, exciting, but yes, also really just scary. And we as leaders, when we get up in the morning, we make choices that will impact organizations and, frankly, the course of history. What are the things that we as non technical leaders can do proactively to make sure that this future is, in fact, bright?
I think you should speak up. So if you see something that you want to make a change, you see that there's a potential, there's a possibility, there are always ways to speak up, to say something, to do something, to explore coming up with solutions. So that's one thing that just kind of popped in my head as you were talking. But then also think back to what you can do yourself, like governance is emerging. So make sure that your governance programs stay up to date with the times. Keep up to date because governance is emerging because what we need to do in society is emerging. Technology is emerging. So nothing is too small. If you have ideas, bring them forward. And I'm telling you, there is a need. And then another thing I would say is talk to your vendors. Ask your vendors, how are you integrating AI sustainably? If they tell you that they're not integrating AI, ask them about machine learning, right? So, because they may not call it AI, they may call it machine learning. And just about everybody's using machine learning today. So, ask them, how are you integrating AI or machine learning in a responsible way? And then, one fun thing I would do is I would learn about sustainability prompts. So look at how you can make your prompts more sustainable. And if you need help with that, just give me a shout out.
I love it. I just learned something today, the sustainability prompt. It's just like I can go to bed now. My day is complete. I've learned something super amazing. And it's my goal for every day. So thank you for letting me complete my goal for today and learn something I didn't know anything about it. And I'm definitely gonna be researching. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Pam. It really opened my eyes on a lot of things. And we covered a lot of ground. And unfortunately, our conversation is coming to the end just when I want to ask you more questions about sustainability prompts. Um, because we covered so much ground, I'll ask you to maybe give one takeaway or an action item for folks so they can be maybe happier dwellers on this intersection of AI and sustainability.
I would just say give it a shot. Take a look at the 17 goals from the UN, and then based on that, just think about one thing that you could do, and you will realize that it's a broad sweep. And but there's look at one of those goals. It could be climate, it could be pollution. Pick an area and then just try it. Right. Look at how you can either create an AI agent or use an AI agent or ask ChatGPT, how can I use AI to help me meet this goal?
Those are some great insights. Again, Pam, thank you so much. I'm so glad we had an opportunity to have this conversation. I knew it's gonna be exciting, but I didn't realize how much learning I would do in the last 37, 36 minutes. So So thank you so much for being here and sharing yourself and your wisdom and your experiences with us. And thank you, audience, for being here. Thank you for being part of this journey. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
And that brings us to the end of another thrilling episode on the Notes to My Legal Self AI Insights. We had a fantastic time exploring the fascinating intersection of law and AI with you. But hold on tight, because the adventure doesn't stop here. Stay connected with us on social media to continue the conversation, share your thoughts, and be part of our incredible community of legal enthusiasts. Together, we can inspire, learn, and make a real impact on the world of law and AI. If you enjoyed today's episode, we encourage you to share it with your friends, colleagues, and anyone else who could benefit from the exciting insights we discussed. Let's spread the knowledge and enthusiasm far and wide.